Hello and welcome to another episode of The Wave, the wonderful Alberni Valley experience. I'm your host, Don Texan, coming to you live from our studios here in Port Alberni, the unceded territories of the Taxat and Hupachesset peoples. And of course, with me today is my lovely co-host, Carol Ann.
Hi, everybody.
All right, I'll let Carol Ann introduce our guest. We have a very special guest today, and I'd like Carol Ann to introduce you our special guest. We're going to be talking about a very interesting subject matter which has piqued my interest for some time now. We're going to be talking about the red dress. So let's get to the introduction of our guest, Madame.
Well, first we have Priscilla Sabas Watts and we have Lisa Watts. So if you each just want to tell us a little bit about yourselves and yeah, we'll get started that way.
Sure. Thanks for having me. My name is Priscilla Sabas Watts. I'm from the Heshquit First Nation. My father is Cecil Sabas. My grandparents were Carrie and Louis Sabas. I live here in the Alberni Valley in Taxat territory. My husband is Ken Watts from the Taxat First Nation.
Okay.
Lisa?
Hi.
Hi.
It's really nice to be here. I'm Lisa Watts. I am actually Nasit Suwak. I don't know which camera to look at.
Right over here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Blushing. I'm eldest daughter of Millie Watts and late Teddy Watts, and my father is from here, Taxat. My mother's from Kispiox. So I'm just happy to be here and hopefully be able to give some good information.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so today we invited Lisa and Priscilla. I remember last time I was mixing up Trevor and Jeff. So now it's Priscilla is here and Lisa is there.
Yeah, I'm not Trevor.
No. I was mixing up the two, like I was calling Jeff Trevor and I was calling Trevor Jeff. And so he called me Carol Ann. Anyway, we're talking about the red dress. It has been, it has caught my eye, it caught my attention some time ago when we see red dresses on trees and fences, and I was wondering, what is the red dress all about?
So the red dress symbolizes it's in honor of and remembrance of murdered missing Indigenous women and girls. It was started by a Métis artist a number of years ago as an art installation, and since then it's been undertaken by a lot of communities, organizations, families, supporters, and hanging red dresses as installations in groups or people being able to do that themselves in their own homes in memory and in honor of murdered missing Indigenous women and girls.
And what is the date? Because you said you hang a red dress at your house.
May 5th is one of the dates that's recognized. It's an American date, but a lot of people here in Canada also recognize that as kind of a day to hang red dresses and in various places.
So how about you, Lisa? What does the red dress mean to you?
Red dress to me is in honor of and respective of Indigenous women. It has huge meaning to me. As I'm an Indigenous woman, I've been called Indian, I've been called First Nations, I'm Taxat, and I'm Gitxsan. I recognized years ago, probably as a girl, that I was not acceptable to the big public. And the big public thought that I was less than because of the color of my skin and the size of my body. So at that time was when I first started noticing how I was being treated. All through my years, it's come up constantly different ways. And when the red dress came up, after hearing stories of families dealing with justice system and general public on the loss of a woman and their family, how they were treated, it just was appalling to me. I did not like it. It was so unfair. So I needed to do something, and that was hang a red dress. I seen it online the first time, and I went to the website, and it said, put your dresses up, and if you can get one person to be aware of the fact of a murdered and missing Indigenous woman and girl and the justice, then you've done your job. So thank God for Facebook. One day I was charged up. It was probably either May 5th or October 4th. I posted on Facebook, I'm going down to the Harbor Quay and I'm going to put dresses up. Walking down there with the dresses in fear because I didn't organize nothing. My whole intention was to have one person find out what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I seen some other ladies coming, but they were around. I put the dress up and I start taking pictures, simple pictures with my phone. I had a young girl cover her eyes and wear one of the dresses for me, and I had other ladies dressed in red came and we hung the dresses up and took pictures of that. And while doing that, one lady came up to me and said, "What are you doing?"
Mm-hmm.
So in that moment, I got to fulfill what I went out there for. I shared with them on MMIWG, murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls, Two-Spirit Plus, and the plight of being unfair justice and wanting to make sure that the world knows that.
Mm-hmm.
That was a really good day. I now wish I took her picture because she was aghast and unexpected. It was a beautiful blue day, you know, Harbor Quay's gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
And then this woman tells her a terrible story in the middle of all that. I felt my job was done then. However, years later, I ended up being involved with our New Chanath community in stepping forward and becoming what's a family support worker. Red dress means a lot to me. It means awareness of Indigenous women, that all women are to be held up with high regard and respect, with kindness, and secondly, that we do have many murdered, many missing, and that if a red dress can make people aware of that and help, then it's all worth it. So I hung up a dress on my own at that time. I hung one up at the end of my driveway another time, and then I hung up more from the place that I work. So that's where I will stop at this moment.
And you do this every year?
Yes.
Twice a year, February 14th and May 5th.
At this time, February 14th, yes. May 5th, yes. And October 4th, yes.
October 4th. So what's the significance of October 4th? Would you like to?
October 4th is the day that Canada said this is our recognition of MMIWG. So May 5th was passed, and this is so crazy that the United States government passed May 5th as the Day of Awareness. And then Canada, we heard it and we're excited. We want people to know, right? MMIWG. So we all did that too. And then October 4th was put through by one of the provinces, and I can't remember which one, but we're doing it again. It just needs to be said out loud, and it needs to be addressed. So with the red dress hanging up, it's a good reminder. It's a really good reminder that something needs to be done.
So how about you, Priscilla? When did you first become aware of the red dress issue? I mean, you don't become aware, like when you're born, you don't know that, right? But when you were coming of age and you became aware, at what age were you?
As a Heshkwit woman, as a young girl, I don't know if I necessarily had the full awareness of the context of the fact that, you know, as a young Indigenous girl, as a young Indigenous woman, that I was, you know, 7 to 10 times more likely to be murdered or go missing than my non-Indigenous friends. However, you experience things like racism, you experience discrimination, and you can see that there are challenges there that you have as an Indigenous woman that other people don't necessarily have. So I think in terms of awareness, it's beyond the red dresses as well. It's the awareness of having to be safe, having to make sure how to know how to be safe in your community, in your town, in your school, in different things, because you're not always treated in the same way. It's how you carry yourself, but it's an awareness that's there. It's an awareness that you have as you grow up, that doesn't ever go away. It becomes deeper. I have a daughter, I have nieces, I have sisters, and people that I love in my life, that it's very apparent to us. It doesn't go away. It's something that's a part of our lives, that we know that there's a higher chance of us going murdered or being murdered or going missing than there are to our counterparts. I've lost friends under suspicious circumstances where things have never been done before, done about it. We've witnessed a lot of women go missing or be murdered in our communities. It's a reality that maybe you're not aware. Maybe you don't have the words for it when you're a child, but you know that things.
Well,
are
now that
different.
you're aware, what action are you motivated to undertake now? Like, she hangs up red dresses, and
I think it's about safety. I think it's about in the opportunities that we have, in the circles that we have, taking opportunities like this when people are curious, if we feel as though we're strong enough to be able to have those types of conversations, because not everybody can. Not everybody feels comfortable. Not everybody feels safe. Even this, there might be some viewers where this is a challenging subject because it's something that affects them directly. You have to ensure that there's support in place for those types of people. Showing up for family, being supportive, having the conversations, and just keeping it alive. It's really important, if you have the ability and you want to show solidarity in that way, to hang the red dress. But there's more to it. You have to educate yourself about it. There are things that there are things and ways that the greater public can educate themselves about what's going on, understand the statistics, and to take action, take responsibility for their own education, and tuning into things like this, reading books, listening to podcasts, watching documentaries. And I myself do that as well, because it's important to understand and to hear about people's stories. There's a lot of books and podcasts about women that have been murdered or have gone missing, from children to young women, and you have the ability to hear the story and to make those people human. They're not just that's not all of who they were. There's so much more to their story, and doing that, taking the responsibility to educate myself, and I think it's important for other people to take that responsibility to educate themselves, to seek out the stories similar to what you're doing today, but to continue to do that, and to know that there's an abundance of information available out there to be able to do that.
Well, I was blown away when I took the time to go through the internet and really research the project. Like, some of the statistics that I've gotten, like between 1980 and 2012, there was 1,181 women and girls murdered or missing. And that's just documented. So you've got to double that, because there's so many that don't say anything. Also, that half of the women in Canada that are murdered or missing are Indigenous, but only 4.3% of the women in Canada are Indigenous. So you got to think how many of that 4.3% make up of half the women in Canada. That was mind-blowing to me.
yeah.
Like, it just amazed
Well,
me.
I was just about to ask you, Caroline, as a non-Indigenous woman, how do you feel about all this?
Well, my girls are Métis, and Métis women are included in those numbers. But whether they were Métis, Native, or not, it's horrific. And it's horrible. It's horrible to think that it's happening, and it's still happening. Like, it blows my mind. It just blows my mind. It really does.
So what, as far as you know, I'm referring to everybody, what is being done aside from the 3 dates that we celebrate or commemorate or remember the red dress story? What else is being done? Are there resources being developed? Are there information being put into the curriculum of schools to educate?
There is the, what is it the Secret, no, something Sisters, there's a group,
Stolen Sisters.
Stolen Sisters, and they are doing a lot too, right?
There's a lot of different grassroots organizations in various communities. It's a group of women in the downtown east side that host the Memorial Day the Memorial March for Murdered and Missing Women in the downtown east side on February 14th. There's a lot of groups of people like that, and smaller, varying sizes, varying degrees of size organizations. Federally, there was an inquiry into murdered, missing Indigenous women and girls, and a report was released two to 3 years ago. Within that report, there's 232, I think it's 232, don't quote me on that, calls to justice within that report. Those calls to justice are aimed at governments, various levels of governments, institutions, industry, and the broader Canadian public. So when I talk about educating oneself too, and going in and doing that education, is to go get yourself familiar. There's an opportunity, and it's an opportunity also to hold governments and industry and institutions accountable. You know, if you're a student in a post-secondary institution, use your voice and say, how are you achieving these calls to justice? How are you working towards achieving these calls to justice? It's similar to like truth and reconciliation calls to action. You know, get familiar with those, and that's some things that are happening. It's not enough for others. There's, you know, I know at the 2-year anniversary mark of when the inquiry was put out, a lot of people said, well, what's been done? There's all of these calls to justice are here. What has been done? What's the accountability? What work has been accomplished in towards this? And many of our communities said it wasn't enough, said nothing was done. And you know, there have been small steps that individuals have been taking small steps. A lot more needs to be done, because to your point, it's still happening.
It's still happening.
It's not something that happened historically. It's not something that happened 10, 15, 20 years ago.
If it hadn't been for Jamie Black doing this art project, somebody like myself would have no idea. And honestly, until I was driving through Nanaimo once and I saw the red dresses hanging, and it's kind of startling to see them because they're so bright, and you've got to wonder what's going on. And then I worked at the Italian Hall, and you guys did the program there, and you had the red dresses hanging, and they had names on them, and it's heart-wrenching. Like, those are somebody's child, sister, like mother, like it that is making an impact, in the sense that it's kind of shaking us up to smarten up and to realize what's going on, and we need to be informed and support, right? So that's why I think this is a great idea.
You know, early on you were saying something about what the meaning of the red dress was, like, because we did a sequel on a feature on the orange shirt, so I knew what the orange shirt was all about. So why the red dress, not a white dress or a blue dress or a yellow dress? What particular significance is the color red?
The one thing that I've read is that it's the color of her blood.
Oh, I see.
And then I've heard of others, but they're not coming up in my brain right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've also seen that the artist, Jamie Black, was inspired by, she was traveling abroad, and she was inspired by a art installation that she saw in I think it was Guatemala or somewhere, and it was red dresses there, and it was very reminiscent. It was very comparable to the experience of Indigenous women in Canada, and that's why she was inspired by that.
I see. So as far as you're aware, are there groups and associations that lead the charge or lead the way as far as creating awareness and keeping this project alive, or this movement alive?
Your group, what you did. Yeah.
So the local government, our local government, Nichana Tribal Council, seeing fit to go and approach and get money to bring in a family support worker. So the Murdered and Missing Indigenous Women and Girls Family Support Worker serves the whole area. along with the others that are inside of our group. Something about someone losing a female, a woman, a mother, a sister, is it was not talked about much in the past. So there's a lot of healing going on right now. I'm hoping that I'm answering your question.
Yeah.
So that's one of the approaches. There's another that I want to pull out and talk about, and that's with the BC government. They brought up a group inside of the Victim Services Unit, and that's the British Columbia Family Information Liaison Unit. So BC FILU. Their goal is to assist families to speak with law enforcement and with the coroner on any case. So that one is very emotional. Some cases have never been investigated. However, if a family believes that their loved one was suspicious death, they can contact that organization. Two, our specialist RCMP officers, former officers, will review the case, and then they will give them what they think it means. They'll tell them what it says. They'll also bring the coroner in to talk about what they found, the findings. I think that one's really important because in our history, I'm pointing at myself, working with the RCMP, law enforcement, was not a good deal. And a lot of the time, I just wish that we could have watched the movie Finding Dawn or The Highway of Tears. They said specifically on there, and I know this, when the RCMP were contacted about a female that went missing, Indigenous female, oh, don't worry, she's probably out partying. So 2 days go by, they phone again. 2 weeks go by, and a non-native blonde, blue-eyed girl went missing. They were on it immediately. And then they went, oh, backpedal, and we're looking for this Indigenous girl. That's a true story, and that one's on the Highway of Tears. And that young lady's name was Ramona Wilson. Her family went through heck trying to find support from the police unit of that area. And that's like not even uncommon.
Yes.
So because of that, BC decided that they would do this. It's actually Canada. There's a FILU in each province. So if we had a loss, Nichana's lost in Alberta, we could approach Alberta FILU and ask them to bring us the information too. So they found it fit to make sure that there was a way of connecting in a good way, and that they themselves can see that that was an incorrect behavior of the past, and they're correcting it now by providing a service that's really supportive and helpful. I've been in a couple of the hearings or interviews, and they were very respectful, and it really helped the families. It really helped them.
That's good.
Yeah.
So you feel enough is being done, or there's still more that should be done?
There's still more that needs to be done. I just don't know what it is. This is such a huge issue. Personally, I had to build my self-esteem. I bought in as a child that I was less than because of the color of my skin. And then as I got older, and it took a long time to fight for this, I found out I'm an okay person. And I'm just as good with anyone else in any room that I walk into. But it took a long battle of fight to believe that I was okay. I believe that happens for a lot of people that are marginalized or oppressed, that they believe what the bigger picture says, and that strengthening ourselves, that's one of the ways of doing it. Bigger picture, unacceptable behavior. You're not to kill our women, any women. How do we say that to the bigger picture, to all the other people, right? So I have no answers on that. I can hold my one little corner up, and that's with the people that have lost right now. That's who I work with. and I can stand with them and help as much as I can, and that's what I can do. I have my personal investments, my granddaughter, my nieces, my sisters, a whole community of dark-skinned Indigenous women and boys, men, that I hold it dear in my heart, that I want them to live well, you know? And the cool thing, like our children, my granddaughters are on the same age as Priscilla's daughter, who's my family, but I think the world is changing. It's different for them. There's not, when I was in high school, it was horrific. I was blown away. When I walked into A.W. Neal, whatever it's called now, I walked in as a Indian. That's what we were called at that time. And I did not know that there was the Indians and then the others. I did not know that until I got there. And then not only that, but the others were scared of me because I was an Indian. And
At what age was this? Like you were?
I was like 13, 14.
Okay.
And that's because Indians were mean, I think. Something like that.
Tough.
Yeah. And like, look
You know
at me, I'm
karate.
dark and
I don't
I'm
know
big,
Japanese.
see? And I'm like, what the heck is this? I don't understand this. And I was already labeled even before I got in there. So I hope that connects back to what I'm trying to talk about. But my granddaughter, she doesn't really know the difference of skin colors, and that makes me so proud. 'Cause we're all the same. We're all people. You know, we've alluded to she's someone, right? And the movement, another movement close to red dress, and you'll see it on Facebook, it says she's someone's mother, she's someone's sister, she's someone's daughter. And then someone goes, scratch, scratch, scratch. She's someone. That's all that should matter. So, so with that, like red dress, she's someone, Stolen Sisters, National Inquiry, BC Filu, Matriarchs. You know, there's so much going on, and it is getting better. It's just slow.
Oh, okay.
It's slow. And I do get riled up.
You do?
Oh,
You're so
yeah.
calm.
Because I want my grandchildren, the great-grands and the great-grands, not to have to deal with what I dealt with. And I want them to walk well, always knowing who they are. Nasit Suwak's granddaughters. We're Sayachipus, his granddaughters. He's like my great-great-great-grandfather. H's, you know, that's our olders. They worked hard for me to be here. You know, and lo and behold, they knew who they were, but they never, in their wildest dreams, ever dreamt that their grandchildren would be treated as less than in their own land.
Yeah, in their own land.
In their own land, and so that's what I want to go back to. That the kids know who they are and where they belong.
Do you feel like in the schools now, like in elementary schools, like we have one in elementary school, and do you feel like it's different now? Are parents teaching their kids now more that everybody's equal?
I don't think everybody
Yeah.
is equal.
What do you
I
mean?
don't think people teach that everything is equal. I think it's like the
I guess it's more.
I don't know. Like I don't.
Technically, nobody
I
can
think
be
we work-
equal, but
we work
just be
towards, like,
accepting or inclusive. of each other.
equality is something that I think we strive for.
I
that
think I'm wording it wrong.
no, yeah, I think that people strive for equality,
Yeah.
equity. there's
Yeah.
difference between equity and equality, but I would strive for equity, you know, that what's available to me, what's available to is available also to others. You know, there's you
Regardless.
can Google pictures on equity, and it shows that it's a very well-known picture of, you know, somebody being able to see over a fence, and then they put the boxes there so that everybody can see it, and then they remove the fence so there's no barrier there, so that everybody can see what's on the other side of the fence. Like, that's equity. It's something that we work towards. It's something that we strive for. But there are a lot of people that don't recognize that they have a certain level of privilege.
I just mean,
and
like, I
don't
want my
necessarily
little one, I don't want her to think she's any better than anybody else.
absolutely.
Like, all the little girls, boys in her class are all on, I want her to treat them like they're all on the same playing field. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't care what color your skin is. You're a beautiful little girl, and we're going to be friends.
And
Like,
I think
that's
there
how
are
I
more
want-
people
'cause
that
she's
are like
innocent.
that. I think there are more people that are like that. But I think that there is still a lot of work to be done, and not everybody believes that.
Yeah.
We'd like to think that everybody believes that, but not everybody does.
Because I don't know, I have friends in every culture, you know, and I don't think anybody's, I don't treat it, they're all the same. Like that, I know that you guys have different difficulties in life, and that's clear, right? But I think you're lovely. Like, I don't, wouldn't, I don't know how to word it. Like, I don't care what color your skin is. I think you're beautiful on the inside, right? Like, to me, I just wish everybody could think that way.
Well, not
It
everybody
bothers me.
does.
It
There's still the
really bothers
remnant
me.
of, you know, older people who still have their biases and their bigotry, and
It's also incredibly important, though, to recognize people's history and to
Yeah.
recognize people's stories. I know what you're trying to say.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Right.
and you're saying, I understand the spirit of what you're trying to say, but it's that, you know, we can't not see color and not see difference, because people have various struggles and have had various historical experience because of the color of their skin or because
Yeah.
of their background. And so, you know, to be able to sit down with anybody and share a meal with somebody, that's great. Also need to acknowledge and recognize and learn about, right? It goes back, to me, it goes back to that education, is that, we can sit down and have a conversation and help to educate one another and recognize that I don't have some of the privileges, and I'm not trying to pick on you.
No,
that
I know what
have
you
had.
mean. You
And
have
so-
more hurdles,
Yeah.
right? But I just hope that that one day there's no more hurdles,
Yeah.
right? Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, that's the ideal.
That's what I'm trying.
That would
That's
be-
the
That's
point
the
I'm
ideal.
trying to make.
all part of our
If we
wonderful
all
Alberni Valley
love each other the
experience.
same, eventually we won't have
Absolutely.
those hurdles,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I'm curious to know your story, because Lisa shared a little bit of her personal experience as an Indigenous woman growing up in Canada, or, you know, what has your experience been, particularly here in Port Alberni?
It's been, I've had good experiences. I've had negative experiences. I've been singled out because I'm First Nations, because I'm Heshkwit, because I, you know, been the subject of stereotypes and assumptions because of my background and because of who I am.
Are they scared of you like they were scared of Lisa?
I've had that. I've had that happen. And you have to kind of show up in a certain way too, right? Sometimes it's easier to show up in that way so that you do keep yourself safe, right? To give the aura of, you know, of being strong and being tough physically, so that people don't. It can be scary as a First Nations woman. You know, I'm not one to typically be scared to walk by myself or do those types of things. But there's a certain type of awareness that you have to have.
Yes, of course.
And that's just the reality, right? There is Port Alberni is a wonderful place to live. I love being here. I love being close to family. I love being close to my community in Hot Springs and being close to my family here. But there's definitely some challenges around it. There's the stereotypes and the assumptions they happen. But you know, I think a lot of us work towards towards breaking those down and addressing them.
Okay, so I'll try to drill on the positive. What has been by far your wonderful Alberni Valley experience here in Port Alberni as an Indigenous woman and overcoming all these hurdles?
And I know we're talking about the Red Dress Project today, but I've had this conversation with a number of people. I've had this conversation with people that my friends of various backgrounds, not just Indigenous, on Canada Day. Was it Canada Day? When they did the march from the Harbour Quay to the Matmos, in solidarity with what had happened in Kamloops.
September 30th.
Is that when they did the march? But that
Yes,
walk,
September 30th,
anyways, when they did that
National
walk.
Day of
Reconciliation.
Yeah, but on Canada Day they did something. They did
That
something
was done
different to
at
not
the-
acknowledge Canada Day, to acknowledge what had been going on, because Canada Day was right after
Yeah.
the discovery in Kamloops. So many people showed up from all walks of life in Port Alberni to participate in that
Wow.
walk. It was phenomenal. It was amazing to see that it wasn't just the community members from Sashot and Hupachesit and all of the other Nuu-chah-nulth people and other Indigenous people that call Port Alberni home, that live here, work here. It was amazing. It was, walking down River Road and looking forward and looking back and seeing just the diversity of people that showed up to support us, showed up to support the loss of all of those children that were discovered in Kamloops. And I say, I know we're here to talk about the Red Dress Project, but you asked about, what's next? How do you?
Yeah.
It's really hard for myself. I can't speak for anybody else, but to separate out the issues, right?
Yeah,
it's
it's
all
one big issue.
interconnected.
Yes,
It's one
of
big
course.
issue. It's the effects of colonization. It's the effects of residential school. The potlatch ban. We are governed, but we are subjects of an Indian Act. We were treated as wards of the state for years. We weren't allowed to practice our ceremonies. There's all of these effects of colonization that have created intergenerational trauma that also are connected to the high numbers of murdered missing Indigenous
Yes.
women and girls. It's because of those effects of colonization. It's not any one thing. It's all
So
of that
much.
intergenerational.
So what is the red hand on the face? Is that in connection to the red dress or in connection to
something else.
something else?
I wouldn't say specifically red dress. It's a symbol of the murdered missing Indigenous women and
But
girls.
it's another woman
Yeah.
project.
Yeah.
Okay.
I see. So, what else is happening here in Port Alberni? Because I want to focus on Port Alberni because this is all about the wonderful Alberni Valley experience. So personally, how about you, Lisa? What has been so by far your most wonderful Alberni Valley experience?
Swimming in the river. I lived in
It is
that
a wonderful
river every
experience.
year, right from when it was May until October. Well, not October.
Are you
until-
originally
May
from Port
sounds
Alberni?
cold.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. And I grew up here. I grew up at the bottom of Waddy's Hill. I grew up there with all my cousins. It was amazing. My grandparents were there. My first cousins. My grandfather's siblings just lived down the road towards the dam. We were always around family, and I didn't care. I was in the river. That's where I was. So from when I got down there until I had to leave for bedtime, I was in the river. So that's my favorite experience, is being there. Of course, my family, I love them. I think that our feasting, that's a big, proud moment for me. I went out and got my name, Nasit Suwak, my son's names. And we did that in a hall with about 150 people
I
to
see.
witness what we were doing. And we became part of the community, mostly my sons, by giving them their names and acknowledging that they are part of our community. It's a shot community. So that was really huge for me. I've always been here. I've mostly worked for my own, which is Nuu-chah-nulth, both in the private government of Sashot and then the Nuu-chah-nulth Tribal Council.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so that's what I've done.
Could you
What are
tell
we
us a
looking
little
at?
bit about the work you do?
So currently I work with Nichana's Tribal Council Mental Health Department, and my role is MMIWG Family Support Worker. So what I do is I sit with families, friends of individuals that have been murdered or suspicious death. I have helped with one family who is dealing with a missing person. Her name's Lisa Marie Young. Some people know of her through Facebook page, specifically Lisa Marie Young, and also by a podcast, and that's on Island Crime. If you want to know and feel how a family is when they're missing someone, that would be a perfect one to sit and listen. And I'll tell you now, you're going to need lots of tissue, and you're going to need someone to sit with you while you're listening to it. It's about 9 segments, and it's worth your time. I spend time with families and community in emotional support, and I also am a cultural worker, so I do ceremony with those that are interested. And my time is spent going to different communities inside of the Nichana's Tribal Council, as far as Kayukit and Dididat and Huayet. So I'm based in Port Alberni, accessible by my email, Lisa Watts, or lisa.watts@nichanas.org. And I'm available for individuals and family groups and community, like standing in the front.
This is for anybody or just
We're
for...
focusing on Nichanath right now,
I
and
see.
Nichanath people that are affected by a missing, murdered, and suspicious death. Currently, we have 53 on the list of murdered and suspicious death. 53 women, and a few of those are children.
Oh
And we
my.
also have the 2 that are missing, and I said Lisa's name first, and the other is Margaret Claver, and she went missing across the border, and a lot of people know a place called Tulalip, and it was around that vicinity. She just went missing. Lisa was an absolutely beautiful, gorgeous young woman. So in a sense, that's what we see when we believe that the women are missing, is they're young, beautiful, gorgeous. Well, Margaret was in her late 40s when she went missing. She's beautiful, but she's in her late 40s and she went missing.
Is she still missing up to now?
Still missing. Both ladies are still missing. There's a lot of hope for Lisa right now. There's active case. Corporal Munkner of Nanaimo branch is the one to speak to, and the one message that they always have is, if you know something, say something. Lisa deserves closure. Her family deserves closure. So that's what they say, and I believe that. They're currently preparing for 2 different things. We spoke of May 5th as an awareness day in general for Canada for MMIWG. Well, strange enough, Lisa Marie Young's birthday is May 5th.
Oh.
May 5th. And this year she would have been 41. So 20 years of being missing. And then the last weekend of June is the actual time when she went missing. So they host a walk in Nanaimo every year on that date, to walk from a police station down to Matthews Sutton Park.
And how long has she been missing now?
She went missing 2002, so it's 20
Wow.
years.
Wow.
Yeah. And Margaret has been missing for 13 years now. She went missing in 2009.
And this is just some of it. It's only the tip of the iceberg.
Tip
right?
of the iceberg. There is some cases that they have been solved in those 53 women. One was a cold case that was across the border in Seattle. It was televised in the middle of the 2000s. The lady went missing. They found her remains, and the murderer's DNA was on her, and they found him when he was leaving jail for another murder. So he is incarcerated
Wow.
as well. It's really devastating. the women are loved deeply and missed deeply. And there's cases that I'm aware of from the 50s all the way up to last summer. I hate saying that, but that was domestic violence. And that breaks my heart. When we talked about this list not being historical is the word I heard, but this happened last summer. That was across the border again. So we don't have a border as Nichanath people. We live in different areas. We set up our families and our livelihood and so on. We're still connected. So they count. And so we have 2 workers now, which I'm really happy to say. Another person works in the Tofino area, so they serve the what we call the central region, Ahousaht, Heshquit, Tlaoquiet, Yuklulit, Tuquat. So we have someone that's serving there, and then I do the rest. It's been going on in our tribal council since 2017. Priscilla talked about a gathering that we had. We were the first across Canada that brought a gathering into our own community, and we made it our own, which meant that we brought the families together. They got an opportunity to speak their truth of what happened to their loved one. They got cultural ceremony and a lot of support, lots of emotional support, family support, part of our culture, and it's feeding the people. We did that with them, and we provided that support afterward if wanted. So that event blossomed for our community in awareness of being able to speak the truth about what happened to different individuals, and then to talk to someone. There's many different beliefs on how that should be done, and it's very private in each family. So what I do is I sit and I listen and I do what I can. Any type of grief is tough. That's what I work with. I'm not involved with researching. I'm not involved with investigating the people. What I'm involved with is the people themselves and walking with them best I can or behind them. Yeah, that's what I do.
It looks like a very heavy responsibility.
You know, to be truthful, September 30th was such a huge day for me. Recognition of a huge wrongdoing, and I walked that walk. I didn't walk it, I've got a bad knee, but I drove along and I recorded.
Same thing. Yeah, you were there.
I was there, and I can't express to you what kind of
relief,
pride. I can't express to you what that feeling was. I just knowing that it brought huge emotions for me. And not only that, everyone else that was involved had the same feeling. So I was really knocked out emotionally and spiritually after that. And now this is going to make a difference for Canada, I believe, because of how I felt after September 30th. October 4th is a big day for awareness for MMIWG, and this is the first year that I cried for the ladies, because I'm not proud of this fact, but I've heard their stories, and not everybody has that. So I don't carry them all the time, but on that day I remembered them and I cried. We want to have them home. We want our people to be loved and cared for and respected. And sometimes it does all come up at once, but then it's dealt with. Creator, we believe in the Creator. Hand it back and then stand up and start working again. That's what I do.
That's wonderful.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for doing what you are doing.
Thank you.
Well, I understand Priscilla. There it goes. I understand, Priscilla, you are involved with some interesting work as well. Would you care to just share a little bit about what you do?
So the work that I do, I mean, my work that my 9 to 5 isn't connected to the work that I do here, but it sounds weird saying this, I'm an active member of my community. I participate with my family. I have a large extended family, active within our community here, and that entails just having that awareness, right? I wake up and I'm a Heshkut woman every day. There's no taking a break from that. There's no showing up and deciding, well, I'm not going to do that tomorrow because it's exhausting. We don't get to make the choice to not be resilient. And so, through the teachings that I've received from my aunties, from my family, from my dad, from my grandmothers, it's how you show up, how you support families, how you support yourself, how you walk to help hold people up. It's important to be able to do that work and to be able to participate in your community. I talked earlier about the struggles that we have in our community, but I don't want to leave today thinking having people think it's so hard to be us. It's actually pretty awesome being us and having the large extended families that we have. I have connections to a lot of non-Indigenous people as well through work and through friendships and things like that. And one thing that I hear consistently, that I've heard consistently my whole life, is how lucky we are to have the large families that we have, to have the connection to community that we have. When we celebrate together. When we need to come together in a crisis or to grieve, we have a lot of people that show up to help hold us up and to help support us through that. We don't walk alone through celebration or through grief or through struggle. We have a lot of people that show up for us. I said earlier, we don't have a choice but to be resilient because of some of the struggles, a lot of the struggles that have been imposed upon us, imposed upon our people. But we're funny, we're close knit,
right?
we love one another, and we're committed to who we are. Like I said, it's not a choice, but we're proud. There's a lot of pride in being Nuu-chah-nulth and being Heshkut and being Sishat, Gitxsan. There's so much pride in that, right? How we show up, how my grandmothers expect me to show up. I'm very proud to show up in that way. And it's not a job. It's teachings. It's what we've been taught to do, and
it's a very precious heritage.
It absolutely is. It comes with a lot of responsibility, and it comes with and I'm honored to have that responsibility. To be able to have that extended family, to be able to have that love, and to be able to know that the support is there when I need it. The support is there when I've seen it be there for when other people need it. And it's really important. It's a huge part of who we are as Nuu-chah-nulth people, to be able to show up for each other in that way.
Now, my question now is there an opportunity for non-Indigenous or non-Nuu-chah-nulth or non-Tishat people to get involved in creating the awareness, in creating education?
I think that, yeah, I mean, we have conversations all the time. I think it's trending, for lack of a better word, but it's important to know that people need to learn to show up as good allies.
Yeah, like you said, there was a march and there were people who were not. Yeah, right.
Go to those types of things.
So are there events like that coming up this year?
I'm not sure. Lisa would know if there are.
Well, that's another fun part about my job, is that I get to do little things like that.
Oh, and there you go. Tell us about the events coming up this year.
Well, the one that I'm working on right now is the May 5th, and I want to do a march around Port Alberni.
Okay.
So the poster will be going out, and I would be so happy if anybody wants to come and help us.
Of course.
And
maybe we can do another episode of the show promoting the event before May 5th.
Good. Yeah. And May 5th comes up really fast. The flip side of that, there's something that I haven't been able to do, but I'd love to do at some point, and it's called International Indigenous Women's Day, and that's the one that I want to work more on. That's where we get to show off our feeling proud and
There you go.
traditional.
I love
and
your outfits
yeah,
too, your
thank you.
colors and your fabrics.
So it's just like it's just like having that opportunity to show off the best of the best, which is all of us. And
So say that again. What is it about women something?
International Indigenous Women's Day. It
Okay.
might be Women's Day, but I throw in International Indigenous Women's Day.
But are
But
non-Indigenous women allowed to participate?
I think it would be good to participate. However, that one will probably be in 2023 now, because that's on March 8th.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's too short to plan it now.
March 8th is what again? So that there is an event happening on March 8th?
No.
No,
event.
she's going to do it
Oh, okay.
next year.
Yeah, but May 5th. May
Okay.
5th. Port Alberni walk.
Well, my birthday's coming, although March
March.
6th. Maybe I can do something.
Yay.
Okay, we're almost out of time. I'll let Carol Ann say a few words before.
Well, I think it's great that you guys came today. I think it's really important to get it out there. And I feel like I just met two great women. I know I've met Priscilla before. I just don't
You
know
just
where.
can't,
And I have met
remember.
Lisa before. And the work that you guys are doing is great. And I just loved when you said, I'm proud to be me. Like,
I know.
every woman, well, and man, should just be proud. Like, but you
I
have
already
so
am.
much to be proud of, right? Like, I just think it's great, and
That's so
raise some
wonderful.
proud daughters, and yeah, I love it. So I'm really glad you guys came today.
Thanks for having us.
Add that to another wonderful Alberni Valley experience. We're almost out of time, but I would like Lisa and Priscilla to give one last message to the audience. Let's start with Lisa.
Oh man, may I have a vote? Are you ready? And I'm like, wow, I got a spot.
I would say that if there's something, I say this a lot, you know, if there's something that you're curious about, if there's something that we said today that, and somebody goes, you know, oh, I want to learn more about that, is do that, you know. We have Google at our fingertips at all times, and there's opportunities through social media. Follow a new social media account that's focused on Indigenous issues, Indigenous women. You know, do a search, listen to a podcast, watch a documentary. Those types of things will go a long way and could potentially take you down some really interesting paths in your own learning journey.
That's wonderful. Okay, Lisa, you're up.
Wow, isn't she amazing? Thank you. So there was two things that I wanted to make sure that everybody got a chance to view, and that I set a video, and it's called Finding Dawn. And the second one is The Highway of Tears.
Dawn is in DAWN?
Yeah.
Like the
Yes.
dawn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Both of them will give you a snapshot of what families went through in reporting their loved one murdered or missing or missing. You will also find a whole bunch of other information online around that, but those ones really got to my heart. And it got to my heart because I just happened to be in Hazelton when a group of people supported families that have missing women. And that really ripped my heart open at that point to the issue. So that was way prior, early 2000s. Always wishing the best to everyone. And I said my email earlier. You're welcome to use that if you want to ask me any more questions. And just have a good day. Thank you for having me. Thank
All
you for
right.
having me.
Well, as Carol Ann said, I'm so glad the two of you have come to grace our show. And I have learned a lot. And not more than that, I have felt and I feel wonderful that we were able to do this episode. And I'm happy. Carol was happy as well.
Yeah, I thought
Although
it
she was
great.
shivering cold a while ago. Anyway, that's all the time we have. We'll catch you next time on The Wave.
Oh, darn. I'm like, oh, we're off now.
All right. Thank you. That was wonderful.